we were going to be handing out this week $6 million in grants and low interest loans to Hull and Situate for seawall replacement. And I said, I look forward to the day when we will be doing that in Weymouth as a result of a program that I helped get passed through the Senate, that I was the lead person on that in the Senate. And the mayor got very upset with me and said, well, and I wasn't criticizing the mayor, but she said, well, I'm unaware of this program. No one from the state has told me about it. And I said, but Mayor, I stood on the seawall with the director of the program and people from your engineering department, so we want to get it done. But, so if you tune in, seawalls was the one bone of contention in that debate. We have, obviously, a lot of issues facing the town that I'm eager to go to work on. One of the reasons I ran, you know, I watched how hard this kid worked. I call him a kid, I call everyone a kid, don't take it the wrong way. I watched how the president of the town council and the other councilors worked on the Southfield legislation. You know, we had a situation where we had a master developer in town that didn't care about this property, didn't want to own it. They didn't want this in their portfolio. We had a board that I think wasn't doing the job. There were a lot of problems associated with what was happening at Southfield. We had the state auditor come in and do scathing reports on what was happening up there. Something needed to be done, and we had no ability to attract any kind of other master developer without some changes to reflect what the realities were in the marketplace and the real estate market and everything else, and learn from our mistakes of what happened at Southfield. And when I watched what the council had to do, where the council had to take the lead in getting an agreement in place and keeping that alive and making that happen for us, Representative Mariano over in the House and myself in the Senate, to get that legislation done. And you know, if you listen to the rhetoric in this campaign and you listen to what's going on in the newspapers, we've got this golden goose now in L-Star. Everything's going great now at Southfield. Well, we wouldn't have L-Star if we hadn't got the legislative changes done. And you know, that just watching how that unfolded was very frustrating, and it just kind of was a metaphor for some of the other things that are happening. Patrick, I drive him crazy because I rant all the time. I've got a captive audience. Like, I don't have to pick up the phone and call Mike Melise. I don't have to pick up the phone and call any of the other councilors. I got a captive audience at the State House. And I don't know how many times he's heard me scream and yell about certain weeds that are growing up. I said, Patrick, that weed on Broad Street in front of Weymouth Pizza, it's up another foot from where it was last year. When is it going to get cut? Some guy smashed a pole in the landing at the corner of the old fire station, around the corner from Breakfast at Sarni's. Joanne Sarni, the former Joanne Sarni is here. And the base of the post got ripped out, concrete base. It's been sitting there for 5 years. Like, people talk about economic development, trying to fill up storefronts. If you're a business person and you come to this town and you look at an empty storefront and you're tripping over a crack in the sidewalk and holes and potholes and weeds growing up, how is that trying to bring economic development to Weymouth? It doesn't make any sense. I take my son, Bob's Muffin Shop, I see Mike Melise there. Actually, I see Mike Melise every time I go to Bob's Muffin Shop because his face is on the wall, in addition to, he's actually sitting there sometimes, so I see two Mike Melises there sometimes. And I said to Vinny, the owner of Bob's Muffin Shop, that doesn't make sense, right? Vinny owns Bob's Muffin Shop. I said, Vinny, they fixed the catch basin a year and a half ago, and the pile of dirt that was left behind from the catch basin repair is, you know what I'm talking about.
Absolutely.
And I said, this is insanity. How is that still there? Like, it's a mess. There are things, I hate to use the word, we use it at the State House all the time, low-hanging fruit, okay? There's a lot of little stuff that can get done that will create a sense of change here and a sense of improvement. So I want to get at least the low-hanging fruit done working with the council. I know there's some high-hanging fruit that, you know, the economic realities are we may not get to, but there's no way we have a Weymouth person represent, I'm treading into Lacey's turf here now, but I am convinced, knowing what I know, and I might not know everything, but the landing project with DeLagos absolutely could have been done by now. It should have been done.
Should have been.
And that's just a symbol.
It's a disgrace.
It's just a symbol of some of the inertia here in town that can be addressed. So I'm hoping that we can get to some of that. So it's kind of the things that pushed me over the edge and decided to run. I probably could have hung around Beacon Hill a lot longer if you look at the election results. The last 2 election cycles, I actually, and I don't want to sound arrogant here or anything, but our margin of victory, and it was with a lot of your help, with an opponent, we had a bigger victory margin than Democrats who ran unopposed, who had more blanks against them than my opponent had votes. So I probably could hang around Beacon Hill for a lot longer if I wanted to, and not have to put myself through the rigors of having to do this. But I care about the town, and I think we can make improvement on the town. And I know Sue Kay cares about the town. I have no doubt about that. But you know, I've heard someone say, well, I'm voting for Sue because the pumpkin giveaway. So I want to go on the record and tell you we're going to continue the pumpkin giveaway. If I'm fortunate enough to be elected, I would want her to maintain her participation in that, and we'll give away bigger pumpkins. But you know, it's almost like the tale of 2 cities. I know Braintree is a totally different situation. Ton of revenue from their commercial tax base. Huge disparity when you compare Braintree to Weymouth. They've got like a little slush fund going with the money they take in from from Braintree Electric Light Department, from Belt. But, you know, they went through a charter change not long after we did, and they went through it for the same reasons we did. They did it for the same reasons we did. In fact, they laid back and watched what happened in Weymouth and why we did our charter change. Ian Hilbert over here was on that charter commission. They did a great job, by the way. Thanks to them, I got to quit my Senate seat if I win. But that was wise what they did. And I don't know if we have anyone else here that was on the charter commission. But you know, Braintree laid back, watch what we did. They did the same thing we did. And the results in Braintree have been totally different. I remember that Weymouth's roads were better maintained than Braintree's roads. Does anyone travel, you know, from Broad Street through the Landing up to Union Street to get on the highway? Braintree was a disaster. But their charter change resulted in a lot of positive change that I think our charter change throughout some of the time since the charter change hasn't resulted in positive change. I think we've fallen behind a little bit the last 8 years. But I'm going on too long. I'm going to save a little of this wind for, no, Marie says Marie wanted to Marie, by the way, our #1 phone calling person. And I never knew Marie. This is a lesson in civics for you. I never met Marie until one day, this woman was in there making phone calls. They said, she's a dynamo. Who is she? She surpassed the guy we had in there that was the leader in our phone banking effort. And finally I said, what's her story? I've never met Marie before. Marie got blown off by Town Hall last year on an issue. Blown off. And let that be a lesson to you. If any of you want to run for politics, return your phone calls, okay? And in fact, I'll tell one more anecdote. This is it's a totally different experience for me running municipal office than it is state legislative office. Obviously, I understand the distinctions of the job. That was something, by the way, that the moderator at WATD got into, and she pressed me pretty hard on this. You know, do you know what you're getting into? You know, you've been in the legislature. I think I handled the question well enough, but it was a great question, and she had a couple follow-up questions. But talking about what motivates people to help a campaign, there's a lot of different reasons. A guy walked into the office, he plunked down a $200 check. Maybe he's here, I don't even know, because I didn't meet the guy. This is what the staff told me. Plunks down a $200 check, leaves his card. I didn't see his card. He's the vice president of the president of, I think, the biggest transportation, traffic engineering consulting firm in New England. And he said that the town of Weymouth posted that they were looking for volunteers for a traffic study committee. He didn't have his calls returned, he sent his resume in, and no one ever got back to him. Sounds to me like that's a guy you want on that committee, okay? And I'm watching some of the committees, some of them are good and everything, we got some great people, but I think a lot of them need some new blood, and they need someone that's not, you know, they're there because they play gin rummy with someone, or they're, you know, the brother of this guy or that guy. We got a lot of people in this town with a lot of expertise that we're not utilizing their services, and I think that...
They don't want them.
Well, I don't know, but they're not utilizing them. So there's a lot of room for change, a lot of room for improvement. Max, I don't want to put you to sleep. All right, so I'm going to shut up now, but, you know, I talk about the people that have been with me for a long time. Max Gowdy's here, husband of Peg Gowdy, who was like a mother to me. Peg got in trouble. Peg got in trouble. She's a Democrat, and she took me around one of my early runs, and they tried to kick her off the Democratic Town Committee. And they had a big tribunal, and they said, they did. They had a big tribunal, and they said, Peg, we want to kick you off the Democratic Town Committee. We understand that you had a bumper sticker on your car for Bob Hedlund. She said, well, actually, it was on Max's car. And it was on his half of the bumper. True story. And then they said, well, you did dear friend cards for Hedlund. We have one here. It says,